this is Dread, and in today's video topic, this is going to be another episode of the Cycle Starter series, where I take a character from level 1 and push it all the way to around 300-ish corruption to test its Cycle Starter capabilities, and this one's a spicy one. This time around, it's going to be Tornado, Gathering Storm, Lightning, Werebear. So I believe that this is the most amount of damage that I've ever had for a cycle start scenario. It's actually blitheringly crazy how much damage I actually have. I think each Gathering Storm on the dummy is hitting for well over 150 to 200k. And if you don't know, that's a lot considering I'm hitting them with a lot of Gathering Storms per second. Now, before we get into like all of that though, I wanted to explain why I was making this build in the first place. So there was two reasons why I actually leveled this build. The first being a friend of mine wanted to see if there was a way to cycle start Druid in a way where like you could retain Druid's tankiness while also playing, you know, a build that has a lot of single target. And we ended up on this one. Now, another reason why I'm playing this is because I felt like Lightning Stormbear was a very good archetype, a very fun archetype, but I went and perused around YouTube. I normally don't watch other Last Epoch content, but I went and looked around, and I'm not gonna lie, the results were kind of pathetic. Like, the damage was pathetic, the clear was pathetic. It was just very mediocre content in general, and it was very, like, I don't know, disappointing because I'm like, wait, this is such a cool concept. Why isn't there actual, like, people playing this? I'm like, all right, fine, let's make it ourselves. And that's what this ended up becoming. Now, with all that being said, if you haven't already, I would heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that is the best way of currently supporting me, and it's the best way of showing me that you want more content like this on YouTube. Now, let's talk about Lightning Stormbear, shall we? So if you don't know what's going on, what we're doing is we're utilizing Tornado. Tornado is a spell that lets you cast it on the ground, and normally it does damage over time. But there's a node inside of it that allows you to cast a Stormbolt from Gathering Storm's tree every 2 seconds. And of course, you can get a lot of frequency, so you get to, like, I think 3 Stormbolts per second per tornado. Then you can also grab a node inside Tornado that double casts your tornado, so you get 2 of them. That's the main reason why we don't go with the attached node, because it actually halves our single target if we go for the attached on us. So I went with the double cast node instead. Now, of course, this is doing a lot of damage. Why is that? Well, one of the ways historically to get around the high mana cost of certain skills inside Primalist is to utilize a transform skill. So like, for instance, back in the day, people would play Earthquake on like Shaman or something, or Beastmaster, and they would swap into Spriggan form to fill up their gigantic 400 mana bar, right? Hop out of Spriggan form, then delete their mana bar again. This is very effective as it allows you to gain a very large amount of mana, and as you stack max mana, which is usually what Attunement's good at doing, by the way, this means that you can get a very large amount of max mana very quickly, and it means you don't have to spend a single like shred of mana regeneration. Now, we have decided to take this concept to the extreme and turn Werebear form into essentially a Diet Coke Death Seal. If you don't know, Death Seal is just simply a lich spell that lets you do a lot more damage in a very short period of time. So, Werebear form. So not only is it refilling our mana bar, but it's also giving us access to Relentless Thunder. If you don't know, Relentless Thunder gives you 40% more global lightning damage for 6 seconds after you transform into Werebear. And then, of course, we transform into Werebear, let our Tornado sit there, and then the Gathering Storms proc, and they get the more damage. Now, it's weird that I say this because a lot of people must be saying, like, hey, wait, I thought that, like, you can't snapshot like that. And no, you can. So the way that this works, to give you a lesson in snapshottery, so if I cast a duration spell, let's say like Tornado, before I walk into Werebear form, and then I go into Werebear form, and I try to benefit from the +1 flat strength spell damage for every strength I have, yada, 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 right? That would not go into effect of the Tornado that I cast while outside of Werebear form, because the duration started outside of Werebear form. But It turns out the Gathering Storm proc, the Stormbolt proc that happens from the tornado counts as a new fresh cast of a spell, which honestly makes sense. That's how mechanics should work in these games, because that actually makes sense. So since it counts as a new fresh spell because it is cast and ended during Werebear's duration, that means it's a new spell, which means it gets access to the 40% more damage, even though that the tornadoes themselves do not get access to it, which is great, right? Then we also grab the node in the upper left that allows us to get 20% more lightning damage while rampaging. This means not only are we getting the flat strength spell damage, we're also getting the 40% more damage and the 20% more damage. So we're almost doubling to tripling our damage while in Werebear form. It is absolutely disgusting, as you can see. Even at this low of level at 91 with shitty gear and COF. By the way, I did not use a speck of favor this time around. I think I was at like 80,000 favor. I didn't even use favor this time. That's just how strong this build felt. So if you want a pedigree of how strong it felt, I didn't even touch the prophecy mechanic this time around because it was just that fun and good. But yeah, so yeah, the idea is we spam a bunch of tornadoes, turn into Werebear form, and then, profit. And for clear, what's really nice is if you look in Tornado, the lightnings from Tornado, they have a really long range. You can get like a very large range on them, and they can hit off screen. So you kind of just like sprinkle them all across the screen, turn it to Werebear, run, wait for the transformation to end for 6 seconds, turn back into human form, then do it all over again. And then you can use cooldown recovery speed to speed up this process. You can stack flat mana, utilizing, of course, the node that gives you more damage per flat mana, but it consumes mana. That does work while you're transformed because it consumes rage instead, which is completely fair because I have to run some rage sustain to sustain those. And as you build up more flat mana, those bolts will cost more and more mana. So you need to like keep that sustained, obviously. And the reason why I even wanted to play this build in the first place, like I said, is it's a very tinky Werebear build while also dealing a lot of damage. That was the requirements that a friend gave me, and I'm delivering on it. Here you go. I think that this is going to be an insane build next patch. It's going to be a very good build next patch, as long as, of course, they don't nerf things. We'll see with the patch notes. Now, with all that being said, let's go in game and talk about the build more in detail, shall we? Alright, here we are in game with the character. Let's go over the skills, shall we? So let's talk about the first one that matters, and that is Tornado. So Tornado here, we mainly grab Charged Storm to do Storm Bolts, and we grab all of the nodes and frequency, so we get 3 per second, I believe. And we also run Overcast Skies. This is to make it so that when you're inside the monoliths and you place down a bunch of tornadoes, they hit all across the screen so that, you clear significantly better. Once I got 4 points into this, my clear went a lot better overall because now my tornadoes are assisting me in clear instead of me just trying to clear with the rampage on Werebear here with this node. It was much better after I got this. Then we also grab 4 points into Hurricane here for the double cast chance. This makes it so you get 2 tornadoes per click, which is then 6 storm bolts per second per time I cast my tornado, which is great. The duration's always great as well. 2 points travel into Stormbringer, 3 points travel into Strength of Air, then Druidic Control, so we get stationary tornadoes. Now, there's a different version of this build you can run. You can actually sacrifice all of these nodes down here and then run Eye of the Storm, where tornadoes attach to you instead. Now, that 100% more damage does not apply to Gathering Storm anymore, which means that you don't get the 100% more damage. So this technically effectively cuts your damage in half if you think about it, which is fine. You can run like Aspect of the Storm, Gust of Renewal, like all the attack and cast speed and stuff like that, run the mana efficiency. This route, if you were to sacrifice all this, you need significantly more cast speed to benefit from this and to maintain a decent amount of single target. But if you do this route, you can keep the tornadoes on you, and as you're rampaging through monos, you'll have way more storm bolts to clear, but your single target will suffer because of it. So it is really up to personal preference of which way you want. Like I said, like you saw in the clip hit before, I was absolutely deleting Oribus's, so you don't actually need that much single target. It's just I am a fan of big dick single target. That's pretty much it for Tornado. Now for Werebear form, it actually matters for once. Oh shoot. I got a level up and I accidentally pulled it out. So what you do is you're just gonna take out of here and pretend you had 5 points into Relentless Thunder, 1 point into Wizened Claws. This 40% more damage is insane. It's global, and like I said, it applies to the Storm Bolts. Then we also go for Bringer of Storms here. Crackling Assault is nice for clearing monos when you don't have tornadoes up, and 1 point into Unending Storm for the 20% more lightning damage, which will also apply to all the lightning, and it also allows you to have no cooldown on Rampage. Rampage is like atrociously bugged right now, so have fun with it, but eventually it'll get fixed, hopefully. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Werebear, other than 5 points in Relentless Thunder. I'm sorry about that. Now, the next skill that matters is Gathering Storm. This is where your Storm Bolts are getting all their damage from. So we run, of course, Lightning Strikes twice for the 20% more damage, the 32% more damage from Concentrated Storm. Then we also grab the 1% base crit per Maelstrom. This allows us to run whatever weapon combination that we want instead of having to use the Catalyst, which means eventually, when we care about defenses, we can take our staff away and go with a Crystal Wand with a one-handed shield. That will allow you to be much tankier. You can like block cap with that, and you could be way tankier. Go for the Shock Chance, of course. Then eventually we get the 40% Lightning Pen here for 40% more damage. Then 1 point to Excited Bolts. This is really good for this setup. Now, it is consuming your mana, but then you swap into Werebear form, it will consume your rage. But thankfully, we have ways of dealing with this with Invigoration. Now, I would not grab Excited Bolts until you have access to the Rage on Crit here. Otherwise, your mana is going to go to the poo-poo. So you don't want to do this until you get the +3 Rage on Crit. Now here, right now, as we currently stand here, we have about 36 times, I think it would be 36 times 3. It's like 100% more damage from Excited Bolts, which is pretty cool. 1 second here. Sorry about that, I had to sneeze. But yeah, Excited Bolts here, it's like 100% more damage right now. Eventually you can lean into this and stack even more damage, but right now it is pretty strong. Maelstrom, all it's meant for is to get as many stacks as possible and to also give us the haste and frenzy so we can move faster and cast more. We do grab the Power of the Storm and stuff, so it gives us extra clear when we're rampaging around, but that's pretty much it for Maelstrom. It's not too important. You just need it for stacks for the base crit from Rending Vortex. Then for Warcry here, getting the pull, so you can pull things together so the AoEs on the lightning bolts can overlap. Getting the cooldown, of course, the crit chance here from here, 100% free crit chance. Then the Maelstroms as well, and then cleansing ailments as well. Eventually, you can invest into this if you get some levels to Warcry, which would mean you could actually use less crit everywhere else. You don't actually need that much crit to cap yourself, maybe like 400% increased crit, mainly because of the Gathering Storm base crit here. We have like 20 Maelstroms up all the time, so you don't need that much base crit. And that's pretty much it for the skills. It's not too complicated this time around, but the rotation is. So let's talk about the rotation real quick. So when you're in monos, you're just gonna like cast your Maelstroms and Warcries when you have them up. Then when you have a perspective pack of enemies, you just simply hold down right click, build a lot of cast speed by the way, and then turn into Werebear form, then just run around while you're rampaging and all your tornadoes will clear everything on the screen. Turn back into human form, do it again, wait for the Werebear form, do this, yada yada yada. You'll get into a rhythm of it and it feels a lot better. Also, here's Rampage bugging out for you if you wanted to see it. But yeah, pretty much that's great. That's cool. That's how the rotation works. It's very simple. Now, let's go over passives that are important. Nothing too crazy this time around. We're just going to be building as much attunement and strength eventually as possible. I would respect this Wisdom of the Wild into the strength or into the HP instead. Eventually, you need to grab Berserker as well. 5 points travel with Shamanic Infusion, although this is very strong, you want to max this out eventually. You also want to grab Totemic Fury and get like a Thorn Totem on hit idle, so you can get even more cast speed. Then we can access to Tornado. Beastmaster, usual Beastmaster attacks. We do actually rampage around, so we can actually get Aspect of the Boron hit when monos and stuff, so you do want to be rampaging around and hitting things with your melee attacks. Then for Druid, it's not like too complicated. Just get as much attributes as possible. The attack and cast speed here. You want as much cast speed as possible on this build because you want to be able to like dump your mana like instantly, right? That's the main thing. That's like one thing. Oh, I actually didn't grab the 8 points here for the crit of wood, but it's fine. You could fill that out later. Shapeshifter actually works pretty well with this. You can get the increased armor and damage, and you can also get the crit chance and crit multi. It actually works with this build because we're constantly shapeshifting, which is cool. Then 8 points into Rageborn for the Rage on crit, which is great. Capture crit as well. 10 points into Hide Skin, and then the rest is just filling out everything else, and that's pretty much it for the passives that are important. For blessings, you want to be using an Avarice until you get access to Grand Hunger of the Void, the gloves that give you elemental damage leech that are in the planter. Lightning Strike, of course, from here to give you all that nice extra damage while clearing. Here, you're supposed to have Crit Avoid. I actually don't know why I don't have a Blessing here. I think it's because I didn't collect the Blessing. It's okay. It's eventually you'd go and get that. Then Armor, Armor Empowered, probably a better roll than I have. That's a pretty shitty roll. And then here, Flat Armor as well. That's a pretty good roll, Flat Armor. And that's pretty much it for blessings. Now, for gearing, idols, you just want to be going for as many HP idols as possible after you fill out your resistances. Then for like this character is not geared at all. Like I said, I have 95,000 favor that I haven't used that I could go use to get gear. Helmet here, strength, attunement. Eventually you want percent damage, HP eventually. Amulet here, increased lightning. You want as much cast speed as possible, so this is your best base for it. HP, you need one affix of shred armor on hit anywhere. That works like anywhere, to be honest. You could have it, which would be great because then you get the like 50% more damage against single target. Weapon here, cast speed. Eventually, I think crit multi. You want as much cast speed as possible. The shotgun hit, chill on hit, lightning pen. Chest here. Plus levels to Tornado are huge. You get a +4 to Tornado chest piece. That is because there's a lot of nodes you can benefit. If you had a +4 to Tornado, you definitely want the lightning range, you want the duration, you can get the movement speed, you can get the mana efficiency, so you can spam more tornadoes in that 4-second period or 5-second period. Go for the cast speed to cast more tornadoes. Plus levels to tornadoes is very good. Then strength or attunement, either way, those both work here because of the way Werebear form works. Then HP, you can seal off like a percent spell damage as well for extra damage. Obviously you'd want a better base than this, but the movement speed is nice. The ring here, yeah, it's a very good ring. Other ring, this is more realistic, way more realistic. Yeah, this is pretty much what you want. Like maybe strength. You want to choose strength over attunement when you're making decisions. If you can get strength, go for that first because that gives you more armor. But if you cannot, go for attunement. So it's very nice with this build that you can actually choose between strength and attunement here and not be penalized for it. Then for the belt here, health, lightning damage, and then eventually cleanse. Gloves here, cast speed, crit chance, mana flat, probably mana flat, strength, attunement, then the crit avoid, HP, void res gloves or whatever eventually. Then boots here, movement speed. You want one affix of cooldown recovery speed. That is because it brings it from 6 seconds to 5 seconds, which is phenomenal because it subtracts 2 total seconds from your total time. So you go from a 12-second rotation to a 10-second rotation. Even just getting one affix of cooldown recovery speed is insane for this build because it reduces the amount of time that you have to wait for your Werebear form and makes it way more fluid. Then for the relic here, cast speed, crit multi, frailty. Eventually you could actually go with the Twisted Heart here because not only would it give you levels to Tornado, I believe, it would also, of course, give you more HP. You'd get a little bit of ward as you're casting your tornadoes. Overall, I think Twisted Heart would be the best in slot here. More flat strength, like overall, Twisted Heart is best in slot in the slot. And then for idols, like I said, just go for as many HP idols as possible. You just want to chop up that HP value, get it as high as possible. You don't really need that much damage. If you do need damage, you can just put in some like damage idols, but like just resistance idols and HP idols. And that's pretty much it. Now, with all that being said, this has been Dread. I'll have to go do something else. Bye.